Mr. Williams, you are here
Right.
today. Let me start.
I think,
Okay, with the
I
argument.
think both of us misinformed.
No,
I
I'm not
think both of us
misinformed. Mr. Williams, you came today because your name means something to you. And you have all these tickets and you would like to resolve them at some point in time because your name means something to you. And the fact that you have these matters out here.
Yeah, so I'm not a U.S. citizen, and the ID she's talking about, I never had a driver's license. And the ID counts since 2018. I am not a resident of U.S. I'm USA citizen, state citizen, state of the Union citizen, not a U.S.
Okay,
citizen.
so if you're not.
And this is proof that I never had a driver's license for
Okay,
16 states.
so you use the Constitution in here. I read your brief. Use Constitution, the United States, 13.
Yes, I did, and once again, this don't pertain to me. They say all persons born or naturalized. I'm not a person. I'm a live human being.
Okay. All right. You have any final words before I make my?
Right from the start, we see a familiar pattern emerging. The defendant immediately attempts to separate himself from the legal identity recognized by the court. By claiming he is not a U.S. citizen but instead a state citizen and a live human being, he's laying the foundation for a jurisdictional challenge. This strategy is often rooted in a misunderstanding of how the legal system defines personhood. In court, identity isn't based on personal belief, it's based on legally recognized definitions that determine how laws apply to individuals present within a jurisdiction.
Appearances for the record, starting with counsel for the people, please.
For the record, Your Honor, good morning. Dia Chiku Mason, City of Detroit Law Department, 43471.
All right. And Mr. Williams, can you state your name for the record, please?
Timothy is standing before the court as a state citizen and not a U.S. citizen. My nationality is American, standing as the people.
Is that your full name? What's your full name?
Timothy Williams.
All right, Timothy Williams. All right, and sir, you know you have the absolute right to have an attorney. You understand that? Are you foregoing that right today?
Represent myself.
You're representing yourself. Do you understand that because some of these are misdemeanors, constitutional rights kick in, such as fines going up to $500, possible jail time up to 30 days, and that's why they advise or offer you the opportunity to have an attorney, but you're not wishing to have that attorney today. Is that correct, sir?
Correct.
Okay. Make sure you keep your voice up really, really loud, okay? And today is your motion. So I'll let you start by providing what you want to start as far as your motion for why I don't have jurisdiction over these particular matters. Go ahead.
I submitted a affidavit of non-existent corporation to the Corporation Counsel, Alexa Schneider.
Okay, she's not here. You can see it. All right, but state your reasons why I don't have jurisdiction.
Well, the state of Michigan Constitution states that Article 1, Section 9, the bills of retainers is unlawful. Section 9, slavery and voluntary servitude. And ex post facto laws, it just states that I don't need a driver's license, registration, or insurance to travel within the state. So that's
What case does it say that in, that you don't need a driver's license?
Michigan Constitution, Article 1, Section 9 and 10, Clause 3 here.
It's in the Michigan Constitution.
Yeah, of 1963.
Is it possible he could come closer to that microphone that you said?
Article 1, Section 9 and 10, Clause 3.
Okay, so you said Article, Michigan Constitution, Section 19 says, in all prosecutions for libels, the truth may be given in evidence to the jury. And if it appears to the jury that the matter charged as libelous is true and was published with good motives and for justifiable ends, the accused shall be acquitted.
That Article 1, Section 9 and 10?
Oh, I thought you said Section 19.
No.
You see, you're not speaking up louder for me to hear.
Section 9 and 10, Clause 3.
9.
Apologize.
Slavery and involuntary servitude.
Meaning the state of
neither
Michigan.
state nor involuntary servitude, unless for the punishment of crime shall be tolerated in the state. What slavery am I asking you to do right now?
The state of Michigan is trying to convert my right to a political privilege. Trying to force me into a contract.
You don't have to get a license, but if you're stopped in a car while you're driving, it's a rule of the state of Michigan that you have to have a license to drive. You know, you do not ever have to get a license, ever. But if you drive a vehicle, the Constitution affords each state and municipality the opportunity to create laws to protect people.
I get it. The statutes is to enforce law.
Correct.
And the Constitution is to uphold lawful law.
That's right.
And the citizens have a right to travel throughout the state.
You can travel on a bicycle, on your feet, on a bus. If you do not want to get a license, the license is created so that you have the opportunity to know that you understand what the rules and the traffic signals mean. So that, because this is what happens, and the court gets to interpret why certain laws are put into place. Because if incidents happen where people don't have licenses and don't have the ability for us to track that person driving, what you're gonna do is sue the state of Michigan because you're gonna say they should have had something in place.
I comprehend what you're saying, but Section 10 say.
Let me look at Section 10. Okay. It says no bill of attenders, ex post facto law or laws impairing the obligation of contract shall be enacted.
Meaning, the state of Michigan cannot force contracts amongst citizens. We have a right, a constitutional right to travel out the state in an automobile.
It doesn't say in an automobile. Where in the Constitution does it say you have the right to travel in an automobile?
Our constitutional right is to have life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness.
That's right.
We travel in automobiles, not vehicles.
No. Tell me where in the Constitution it says that you can have an automobile.
Shapiro versus Thompson.
At this moment, the judge gives the defendant a critical opportunity, final words before ruling on the motion. Instead of strengthening his legal argument, the defendant doubles down by requesting a default judgment which doesn't apply in this context. The judge quickly denies it, signaling that the court is operating under structured legal procedures, not unilateral declarations. This is a key turning point where the defendant could pivot, but instead, he continues deeper into a flawed legal strategy.
Shapiro versus Thompson.
Shapiro versus Thompson, we have a right to travel throughout the states. Jurisdiction to jurisdiction.
You do. Listen, I'm not denying you have the right to travel. You can travel in the state of Michigan and any state that I'm aware of in order to travel and ride in your own vehicle.
Automobile.
You have to have automobile, vehicle, car, whatever it is. If you want to physically get behind the wheel and drive it, you have to have a driver's license. I'm not saying you can't travel. You can travel as much as you want on the road.
But a minute ago, he said I don't have to have a driver's license.
You don't. But if you want to get behind a vehicle and drive it yourself personally, you have to have a license. You don't have to. Listen, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. But if you choose to, then certain things kick in as rights that the states and municipalities and governments have to enforce the rules as long as they've been found not unconstitutional. It's not unconstitutional. Remember, we can have stricter laws in the states. They can't violate federal laws, but they can be stricter. And each state has decided, and I'll just talk about the state of Michigan. The state of Michigan has decided in order for you to drive an automobile, a car, a vehicle, that you have to have a license.
For business, that's correct. Doing business, commerce.
No.
Taxi cabs, Uber.
No, because they have different type of licenses in the state of Michigan too. So they have a specific license if you want to do commerce. There are different licenses. So driver's license say there are different levels to them. So yes, for business. If it was only a business license, I would get you. You only need one for business. But on the driver's license, that's not what it says. But I'll let you continue your argument and then I'll let her have her response, Madam Prosecutor. So
I'll let her.
Okay. Respond.
Your Honor, I would agree with the court on that. I would also kind of reiterate that it is a privilege to drive. It is not a right to drive. It is a privilege. With the Constitution.
I object.
No, she didn't object on your statement.
I object.
So what?
She used the term drive, travel.
Travel. Can you use the word travel?
Did you find the word drive?
Driving is getting into a vehicle and moving it under the power of an engine, or under the power of an engine, on public highways, streets, and freeways.
And the definition of travel is from point A to point B.
You know, and again,
And not driving a car.
excuse me, I'm not finished with my argument. I allowed you to proceed, and I expect you to give me that same courtesy. Okay, thank you. Also, there's a rational basis that the Supreme Court has articulated when it comes to the Constitution. The fact that, I'm sorry, I'm looking at him instead of the court, Your Honor. Rational basis for our rules and regulations, and that is for the security and the safety of the public and the public welfare for people. And that's why.
No. We're not gonna play the interruption game. This is not the interruption game. And I'm gonna give you an opportunity to respond, but while she's talking, we're not gonna interrupt her and say under what law. Okay, go ahead, Attorney Mason.
So there's a rational basis which the Supreme Court has articulated in cases that show that they have a right to regulate certain types of activities among the people in the United States. And so a rational basis is the security and the protection of people regarding driving multi-vehicle, heavy vehicles upon its public highways, roads, freeways. And I believe that he does not have an unfettered right. You just don't have an unfettered right without any type of regulation to travel in a vehicle on the public highways, freeways, roads in the city of Detroit, the county of Wayne, the state of Michigan, and the United States of America. I also believe that this court does have jurisdiction which has been given to it through the state of Michigan, through the state constitution, which gives and creates the judicial, the legislative, and the executive branches, and through the powers of the federal constitution, which comes down and grants that power to the 36th District Court. In addition, Your Honor, based upon the citation provided to Mr. Williams, he has pretty much relegated himself to this jurisdiction when he did get his license, which starts with the letter W. He lives within the jurisdiction of this city, which the address is, if I can make that out, 19419 Rosemont Avenue in Detroit, Michigan. So he has subjected himself to the jurisdiction of this state, of this city, and this county.
Did you have a response, sir?
Yeah, so I'm not a U.S. citizen, and the ID she's talking about, I never had a driver's license. And the ID, the council since 2018. I am not a resident of U.S. I'm a USA citizen, state of the union citizen, not a U.S. citizen.
Okay, so if you're not.
And this is proof that I never had a driver's license.
Okay, so you use the Constitution in here. I read your brief. Use Constitution, the United States 13. What about 14? I said, what about the 14th Amendment? You talked about incited in your stuff, the 13th Amendment about slavery, but then, so the Constitution applies to you, correct? The United States of America Constitution applies.
Correct.
Okay, so the 14th Amendment states.
Before the 14th Amendment, you had state citizens. After the 14th Amendment, that's when they created U.S. citizens.
Okay, so you already know it says all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the states in which they reside.
Here, the defendant attempts to cite constitutional provisions to justify driving without a license. However, the judge immediately challenges him to provide a specific legal basis for that claim. This is where many arguments like this begin to unravel, because broad constitutional references often don't translate into specific legal permissions. Courts require precise legal authority, not generalized interpretations, especially when it comes to regulated activities like operating a motor vehicle.
How do we deal with that?
I'm not a U.S. citizen. I'm a state citizen.
But they said all persons born or naturalized. Naturalized means if you just come here.
That's not what that means. I have no contracts with the state of Michigan.
Just because you don't want to have it doesn't mean
It's
it
not about
doesn't
not wanting.
exist.
We follow the Constitution. You took
Yes,
the Constitution, right?
Listen, it says no state, it further goes on to say, no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor should any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of the law.
Correct.
So
With
this
the law,
is-
the
this
law
is-
of the land, which
this
is
is
supreme
So
rulings.
here's the due process of the land though. If you didn't commit these offenses, you have a trial. That's what due process is.
But I submitted a denial of corporation. This court has no jurisdiction. I have no contract with the state of Michigan whatsoever.
You don't, okay. So the fact that you say you don't have contract doesn't make that not true. And we're not talking about contracts. We are
Right.
simply, you're not a corporation, you're a human. If these tickets were written against your corporation, that would be different. This
It
is
is written
against
against
a
the-
human being
They written
that I can
against,
see physically in front of me right now
you
who's
see me,
talking.
but the paperwork don't see me. That's a council ID from 2018. That's a dead entity.
Listen, and it's a cancel ID, but they found you all while you were driving behind a vehicle. A Chrysler 2006 white vehicle at East Davidson and Mount Elliott, a Cadillac vehicle in the area of Midden and Gunston, a GMC vehicle in the area of East Jefferson and Garland Streets.
You know, and I
The
pose no threat.
Chrysler and that you just had those three vehicles, it looks like.
You know, and I pose no threat to the community.
And
I travel throughout the
I'm not
state.
saying, but you have to follow what the laws of this city are.
I was the law of the land. Supreme Court ruling, Shapiro versus Thompson.
Okay,
have the right to travel.
read to me what it says.
Because the constitutional right to free movement between states was advocated, the court applied a standard of strict scrutiny and held none of these interests were sufficient to sustain the waiver requirement. The court held that there was no evidence that the requirement would make planning a budget more predictable than gets to the point. Finally, the court
This is one of the most important clarifications in the entire exchange. The judge draws a clear distinction between the right to travel and the privilege of driving. While individuals absolutely have the right to move freely, that doesn't automatically extend to operating a motor vehicle without regulation. Driving involves public safety concerns, which is why states impose licensing requirements. The judge isn't denying the defendant's right to travel, she's explaining the legal limits of how that right is exercised.
court rejected an argument that Congress had authority. Finally, the court rejected the argument that Congress had authorized the waiver because Congress does not have the power to authorize violations of equal protection clause. And the equal protection clause
And
is
what is that case referring to though?
the right to travel,
The right to travel. Was it in a vehicle?
automobile.
Automobile, was it in an
And
automobile?
further, the court reaffirmed that the right to travel under the 14th Amendment, privileges and immunities clause, and Suez versus Roe, 1999.
Right,
This is
So-
upheld by the Supreme Court.
so the right to travel in an automobile, that's what it was talking about? In that case, no, the first one, the
How
people
else
versus
would you
Shapiro.
travel throughout the state? How else would you travel throughout the
No,
state?
no. You
It didn't say
how else do you
exercise.
travel?
It didn't say
It's no.
exercise throughout the state.
How else do you travel? Tell me. Tell me the means
Automobile?
of transportation that we have in the United States of America. And I want you to tell me every means. We have trains,
Automobile.
we have planes, we have bicycles, we have buses, we have luxury coaches, we have the RV motor vehicles, we have tractor trailers, we have legs.
Automobile.
That we have automobiles. So what specifically in there does it say that the right to travel only applies to automobiles?
No, not only. Of course not.
Okay.
Of course not.
So it doesn't say you have the right to travel only if you use this means. It says you have the right. If I tell you you can't go someplace, that you can't have the right to travel, you can't leave at all, either you must be in prison or you must be on probation, and I'm having some type of authority that leads me to do that. I can't stop you at any point from time. Today, if you want to walk out and go to another state, you can. But you have to use a means that you're able to use. And once you go behind the seat of a car and vehicle and you use it to travel, because I'm not stopping you from traveling, because you can get there. It may not be by the way that you want to get there, but and it doesn't say in there that it's by the way that you want to get there. It says if I stop you, there are many means by which you can get to where you want to go. But if you take the opportunity to get behind the wheel of a vehicle, you now subject yourself to the rights and privileges of those who have a driver's license.
Under what law?
Under the law of the United States of America, passed down to the state of Michigan, passed down to the municipality to create laws and regulations to help with the protection of society. And I told you the reason why, and I don't know exactly, I haven't read the legislative intent, but I'm imagining it was twofold: to protect society from one another and at least give us some type of skills. Now I know you have the skills, or maybe you should possess the skills to know what traffic.
This exchange breaks down the argument even further. The judge walks through multiple modes of travel: walking, biking, buses, planes, demonstrating that the right to travel is not tied to a specific method like driving a car. This logical dismantling exposes a key flaw in the defendant's reasoning. The Constitution protects movement, not unrestricted use of every possible means of transportation. By choosing to drive, individuals voluntarily enter a regulated space governed by state law.
Signs are, to know what speed limit signs are, to understand what all of those things are, and probably also to help with the liability. Because if there were accidents and nobody was held liable because I don't have to have anything, well then who's in trouble? The individuals, yes. But then they're going to say, but you let us do this, and you fixed the roads, and you created roads and paths for us to be able to travel on, or traverse on, or to drive on, or to move about on, and now it's your responsibility to govern these roads.
I have to object to it. Nothing you said is a law, like that's not constitutional.
It's the law, it's the 14th Amendment is what I'm standing on.
What about the U.S., the Michigan U.S.
This is the Constitution of the United States of America that I read.
Okay.
That is the 14th Amendment of the United States of America Constitution.
But you asked for laws in Michigan, right? Which
one is it? Do you want the laws of Michigan or do you want the laws of the United States of America?
It's the same thing.
Exactly.
No.
Sir, Mr.
No,
Williams, you are here
Right.
today. Let me start.
I think,
Okay, with the
I
argument.
think both of us misinformed.
No,
I
I'm not
think both of us
misinformed. Mr. Williams, you came today because your name means something to you. And you have all these tickets and you would like to resolve them at some point in time because your name means something to you. And the fact that you have these matters out here means something to you. Because otherwise you would do what everybody else does who believes in this stuff, and they would just not show up and just be like, whatever, because it doesn't apply to me. But your name means something and you want to take care of these. Even if you're not traveling, one of your tickets, ticket SP 1418401, count one of that ticket is open alcohol in a motor vehicle driver. Would you like to at least address that ticket?
Well, people want to see the whole bottle in the back seat, so
So you hear, Mr. Williams? You can address these tickets, right? Because that's a ticket that don't have to do nothing with you driving at that point in time. That's a ticket in the state of Michigan that you're saying that you weren't traveling at that point in time. It's just a ticket about what's going on in that vehicle that you own and you have. So how do we address it?
As the case concludes, the outcome becomes clear. The judge firmly establishes jurisdiction, denies the defendant's motions, and sets the case for trial. Despite the defendant's persistent arguments, none of his claims successfully challenged the court's authority. This case highlights an important lesson. Misunderstanding legal principles, especially jurisdiction, can lead to serious consequences. Courts operate on established law, not personal interpretations or beliefs. If you found this case as shocking as we did, make sure to hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more jaw-dropping courtroom breakdowns.